Hello. Well, I'm not in the best of mood today, and I had some very disappointing news. And the news was that my favorite track in the world, Atco Raceway, is no longer going to be a racetrack. So, this is like a big loss. This is where I have met a lot of friends over the years. The officials were my friends back in the day, and I have some very good stories about them guys. Nice stories. I'll talk about that some other time. I have a lot to say, but don't know where to start. Um, it's hard for me to do this because I fight back tears, and you guys might say, Terry, it's just a racetrack. No, it's more than a racetrack. See, I go by this track all the time, and I see the Atco sign out there, and it's memories. My whole youth till now is it's just full of memories from that track. And even thinking of this, they had very good food there. So I'm no longer going to get my Atco burger. That's what I call them, cheeseburger. But as you guys know, I've been working very hard on a pair of cylinder heads. Now, I'm not making the best time, but I am getting them closer to being done. And they're actually good to go right now. But your buddy Terry, you know who you're dealing with here. I don't know when to stop. That's not what this video is about, though. It's just about this here. I have all these hours and hours in a pair of cylinder heads. For what reason? Well, I wanted to make the engine run as good as possible. And my first, one of the first things I wanted to do was get that truck up and running, my 1965 Ford truck that the 460 is going in. And the first thing was going to be this: take it to the track and let you guys see what kind of number it put down. Well, from where my truck's at my son's house, Atco's 10 minutes down the road. So that won't be happening. So what do I do? Well, there's other ways to do things, but I won't discuss that right now. I know how fast a vehicle goes by the seat of my pants. But does that do you guys any good for Terry to be romping on something and say, well, guys, I just think I ran whatever. And then you have your draggies that are pretty accurate. The guys don't like to go by them. People will say, that thing probably that was off a couple tenths. And so they discredit that. So the racetrack is the only place that gets any real credibility, in my opinion. And here's another thing: I had some races lined up that I wanted to settle down the track. There's a few guys I wanted to happen to get beside of them down the track when I built this truck. Just happened to get beside of them. Because, in the racing world, you do have rivals. You don't have to hate anybody, but you do have rivals. There's just a couple people I wanted to have a little bit of fun with down there. And so that won't be happening now, because these guys all go to Atco Raceway. And I don't think I'm going to run into any of these people an hour and a half away at another racetrack. It's like this here. What do? We all sit back and watch them sell our tracks off. Because people's like, well, the guy got a lot of money for it. That's not what this is about. this had a whole schedule planned for the year, Atco Raceway, and now these guys that were running point systems, some of these guys run a class where there's points involved. Where does that leave these poor guys? And them guys pay pretty good money to enter them races. So it's here. I think it was a Fred Flintstone cartoon. I could be wrong, but you guys come to mind anytime where you've seen these cartoons where the guy gets the rug pulled out from under him, and the little guy goes whoop, 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 and then he falls on his face. That's what it feels like. And then I have the old Terry way of thinking, and I'll have about 80% of the younger youth mad at me if I say this, but I'm going to say it because I'm an old school guy. Racing to me is old school muscle car stuff. The V8s, the high tones of the small block, the deep tones of the big block. And I know turbos have come along. Now you have these little 1.4s running 7s in the quarter mile and 6s. Maybe not that small. You guys get my drift. So that's all well and good, because I was one of them guys back in 1979 with a 4-cylinder Pinto. But here's the thing, and I did really well with that. As a matter of fact, I got my only trophy down the Atco with that 4-cylinder. But not to contradict myself, but here's my point. The last race of the season, the last race they just had there was an import race, which is all well and good. Some guys deserve to race and do whatever. That's not what I'm saying here. My point is this. This track did not even offer, for the guys that have been coming there their whole life, such as one of the fellows I have on my channel, a lifetime fella right there from that town, Atco, that you guys saw on my channel. Did that man deserve a last chance to run that car? Would it have hurt them to give them a warning and to say, hey, we're going to be closing at the end of the month, so somebody that's ran there their whole life could have had a chance to go down? Because a lot of guys don't like them small, high-revving 4-cylinder vehicles. So, and it's already crowded there. It had the biggest turnout of any of the shootout type things that Atco sponsors there. And a lot of people like that race. But there's a lot of guys like me still left around that like the old school racing. But my point is this. It's nothing against anybody else, what brand they have or what they run. It's about they didn't give us old guys a chance to bring our muscle cars for one more time down the track. So I was hoping I wouldn't break down and cry on YouTube here, because I'm sure you guys don't want to see this beautiful face all wrinkled up and ruin this right here. You don't want to see that, because believe it or not, guys, as handsome as I am here, when I cry, it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Honest, I know you can't believe that, but that's what happens when I cry. I'm not a pretty sight. But anyway, I don't even know what to say. I hope I'm not being derogatory about the other cars being down there. It's just that's where they left us, guys. They left us with a race that none of us older guys wanted to go to, is what I'm getting at. It's not about badgering anybody else that runs the small cars, because it's a cool class that they run. It's just not me. But I will say this, and this is my opinion. These people that are doing this to the tracks, they don't want anybody racing anything. So 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder. This is where I was going with this. I'll get there in a minute. Anything that runs fuel, they don't want you to have it. And I don't know what's going to happen in the near future here. But I will say this. Somebody made wasn't really a joke, they were serious. It doesn't matter if they have electric cars that run 4 seconds. I don't want it. That's not impressive to me. And then somebody was saying how these electric cars in the future here, they make a noise. They put a thing to make it sound like it's making noise, like an engine. Are we little kids? I had an engine on my bicycle back in the day that made noise. It was called a baroom. And you guys are my age might remember that. They used to advertise it. It had a little dial on it. You put it on your handlebars or down on the frame of your bike, and it would go brrrr, and it sounded like it sounded like sort of like a 4-cylinder. But anyway, if I remember right, I'm going back when I was a kid. So anyway, I do want to say this. I've seen other guys that I never even thought knew about Atco Raceway have made several videos that I've come across, and my hat's off to these guys that took time to make these videos. I would mention who they are, but you guys have probably already saw their videos. But guys, I'm going to tell you, we gotta put our heads together here and figure out what to do, because now I have street cars that go to the track. What about these guys? I should say poor guys, but they're not poor guys. They're guys that are caught in a situation because they have cars that are worth $200,000 and $300,000. Some of these guys, race cars. That's all they are, is race cars. What are they going to do? Has anybody thought about that? Because we're thinking about the guys that are like me. Now we have nowhere to go to run our vehicles. But what about these guys that have full-blown race cars, and where are they going to go? Some of these guys don't travel across state. So I'll be glad when somebody puts a solution together and talks about this, because I'm talking about one track, Atco. That's my home track. I just got word that there was 5 tracks, and they're destroying one as we speak today in another state, supposedly. And they sold off Atco and then another track at the same time yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. So anyway, I've heard there's been 5 tracks sold in the last few days. And then these other racetracks are saying, you're welcome to come here. Well, you are, thank you. If you can get there 4 hours away, 3 hours away. I think there might be 1-2 hours away, somewhere in there. But here's the thing. I would be at home and say, I'll take a ride to the track. I think I'll just take a ride down there. And that's what I do. Now this is going to have to be a planned out thing for me. This isn't Terry's pity party. I don't want to turn it into that. I'm just very upset. I will be saying more about this in the future. I actually wasn't going to do this video, but my better half kept saying, you need to talk about this. So maybe I'm putting the information out there to somebody that hasn't heard about this that might be interested. So anyway, guys, I'm lost for words, and I don't know what else to say, except for, I did start to say this. You don't have a lot of incentive to do anything now, as far as let me rephrase that. I have no incentive except to put my truck together now. Who cares how fast it goes if I have no track to run it at? It's very discouraging. But anyway, guys, I don't mean to cry on your shoulder, but this is where we're at, fellas. And you might say, well, we have a racetrack here, Terry. For how long do you? Because this is happening all over. They got rid of Englishtown a long time ago, and I can't think how many years ago now. That was another good racetrack. And they were going to do this and that with it, transport and all that. These people are buying these racetracks up, and they're not even using the tracks for what they're saying they're using them for. It's a smoke and mirrors, I believe. That's my opinion. And I mean, you might say, well, they sold our track and they built houses there. I'm not saying it's everywhere, but that's how I look at it. And it doesn't really matter for what reason that they're doing it. It's just the fact that it's happening. But I've said about all I can say about this. I'm just going to babble, and you guys don't need that. So if you feel up to it, fellas, or had a situation like this happen to you with your track, hometown track, give me a little comment down there. It's not just here in Jersey that's happening. It's happening all over. So just food for thought, fellas. And even people might say, well, I don't race, I don't care about that. Well, it's not just racetracks that we're talking about here, and I'm not going to get political. But people better use these things that are going on and open their eyes and see it's not just what we see in front of us. There's other things around it. That's it's a taking away our livelihood, stuff we like to do, and just because your neighbor might applaud that the track, a noisy old track, is gone, it's not all about that. So people that don't race, don't get too excited, because whatever you like might be next. I'll put it to you that way. That's just a little food for thought from old Terry here. I'm going to leave it at that. I've said enough. I want to tell everybody thank you for listening to me babble on here. And I want to always say God bless you. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.